Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for another webinar here on Staffing Hub. Today's presentation, How Salo Grew Referrals by Putting People First, is brought to you by Staffing Referrals. Before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping items. If you have any questions at all throughout the presentation, please drop those into the questions panel and we will address them at the end of the presentation. And just so you know, we will also send out the recording following the broadcast. And with that, I'll pass it over to David Falwell of Staffing Referrals.
Thanks for joining this webinar. Today, we're going to be talking with Salo about how they grew referrals by putting people first. To kick things off, I'd like to share a little about who is Staffing Referrals, and then we'll jump into introductions. So Staffing Referrals partners with over 100 agencies and has generated over 1.5 million brand ambassadors with the industry's leading automated referral management platform. By automating the referral process, we help agencies like yours improve the candidate experience and reduce your cost per hire. Agencies of all sizes choose us because we can help you reduce your dependency on job boards by transforming your candidate network into your competitive advantage. Staffing Referrals is the only software 100% focused on the staffing industry. We have over 15 integrations, and we've spent a little over 6 years building our platform. We are the leading referral software for staffing agencies, and we integrate with most applicant tracking systems as well as leading software providers. Now let's get to the fun part and introduce our panelists. So I'm honored to be joined by Adam, John, and Hannah with the Salo team and Rachel from our team. Adam, to kick things off, could you introduce yourself and pass it around?
Absolutely. Thanks, David. So I'm Adam Sprecher, the Chief Growth Officer with Salo. Been with the organization 15 years, and actually should correct myself, Salo, a Korn Ferry company, as we were recently acquired by Korn Ferry. But excited to be here and share more about what our partnership has done for the organization over the last year. John?
Yep. So I'm John Cermak. I'm the Director of Talent Acquisition for internal hiring at Salo, as well as the people support function. I've been at Salo just over 5 years here, and like Adam, excited to be here and share our story. Anna?
Hi, everybody. My name is Hannah Erdman, and I'm Senior Brand Manager with Salo. Joined just after John, so this is actually my 5-year anniversary this month, but excited to jump into this topic with everyone today.
Awesome. And I am Rachel Arnold. I'm VP of Customer Experience here at Staffing Referrals. I've been with the team for a year and 8 months. Prior to coming over here, I was actually a customer of Staffing Referrals, and I come from healthcare staffing. I used the product for 2.5 years, had a ton of success with it, and transitioned to this side of things. So now I help all of our customers like Salo have success with our product.
Awesome. And I'm David Falwell. I'm the president and founder of Staffing Referrals. And I'm very excited to have you all on the call today. Now let's jump over to the agenda. So today we're going to have a conversation where Salo will be sharing some of the activities they put in place to build a referral culture that helped grow their organization. We'll discuss how Salo built a people-first business, what it means to make work meaningful, and we'll dig into some of the best practices around the candidate experience and change management. We'll finish by briefly sharing how you can use referrals to create a competitive advantage. So I'm personally very grateful for the opportunity to work with Salo because of the lessons I've learned about the importance of putting people first and focusing on your strategy. When I think about Salo, this quote from Peter Drucker comes to mind: "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." When we first started working with Salo, I noticed that their organization operates and thinks differently about staffing. I knew something was unique when I heard them talk about their core values in every meeting, about protecting the candidate experience, and about getting buy-in from their team. And that's why I'm excited for you to hear about Salo's journey with staffing referrals. And without further ado, let me pass the torch to Rachel, who will be leading this panel discussion.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, I'm also very excited. I have worked really closely with the team at Salo it's been a whole year now, guys, which is very exciting, and have been so impressed by the team, the cohesiveness, and of course, the success that we've had with bringing on Staffing Referrals. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about what's going on at Salo. So let's kick things off talking about how Salo built a people-first business.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. This is something that is near and dear to literally our hearts, but also to the work that we do every day. The last 20 years, Salo has been an organization where really our focus, our goal every day is to really help people find meaningful work. And, you know, in the industry and the business that we're in, it sounds maybe a little cliche, but our approach to that is really understanding what really makes people tick, how they really want to experience work. And when you find those opportunities and you make those great fits and matches for them, really good things happen for them, your clients, and ultimately you as an organization. And the framework that Salo was founded under, the framework that John and Hannah and I and many others have used for many years here, though, is really what's being represented on the screen. And it's the lenses of our purpose, our mission, and our values. And those core 6 values really represent everything that we do, to the partners that we work with, the programs that we put together, but the decisions and the strategies that we develop that have helped us grow and be a national platform and have produced opportunities to work with individuals across the country. That really at the core and the essence, it can be felt, experienced day in, day out in everything we do. And that aligned North Star, that focus, and ultimately that commitment from our ownership through leadership to every individual as part of the organization, and the alignment to what you're seeing on the screen, that's produced the culture, that's produced who we are as an organization, how we show up every day, what gets us out of bed, and the energy that you experience. And so, having that to be the foundation for who we are as an organization, but truly ensuring every decision we make, is this great for our consultants? Does this enhance the experience for our consultants? Does this help them experience more meaningful work? By partnering with Salo, that's what it really comes down to. And so that certainly is no surprise why that is part of how we've put together our referral program and the partnership that we've established together. And I think that has really helped to create some really cool things.
Absolutely. I love this slide and the PMV, as you all call it. So how do your core values support this people first culture that you all have?
Yeah, and I can jump in here a little bit and to echo a lot of what Adam has shared already, but you see it on the screen, and I'm happy we're starting here because this is exactly how we start every company meeting at Salo. No joke. We don't just flash up this slide. We talk about it every time and re-ground ourselves and really why we do what we do. And that's exactly what this is. It's, our purpose is why Salo exists. Our mission is what we do, and our values are how we do it. And it's a purpose, a mission, and values that's built by our people. So that's really how it's connected. This wasn't built in a vacuum. Everybody weighed in at Salo on what this means, what this looks like, how it reads, and how we continue to create this experience for all of our partners, our clients, our consultants, anyone that gets connected with Salo. And we check on it regularly. We check in and we hone in and we say, does this still ring true? Are we still able to accomplish this and live out our values? But our people are the ones who bring this to life day in and day out. And that's kind of that connection. And it's really how we do everything at Salo. And I swear I'm not exaggerating there. Our purpose, mission, and values are how we build our strategy, how we build our teams, how we hire people, how we recognize people. It's our values are literally part of our structure and how we interview and things like that. So it's interwoven and interconnected to really how our business operates.
And how did this become one of your core values?
Yeah, and so what you probably don't see exactly on the right-hand side here is the word people first, but what kind of evolved and happened is that's just how people kind of spoke about Salo. Our partners, our clients, et cetera, use this phrase, and we've kind of been saying it internally for 20 years. And then the last couple of years just realized, this is our special sauce. This is how we do what we do. From the little tasks to the big strategies, it's really our overarching theme for how we go to business, how we go to market, how we connect and work with others. And our founders 20 years ago started with the idea that the relationship is more important than the transaction. And that can be really tricky in our staffing industry, but it was the reason for why Salo was created. And we've tried to live that through over the last 20 years. And keep that at the forefront because we really do believe that meaningful work can be a reality for a lot of people. And, Adam said it can be cliche, but who doesn't want, to be happy in their work and in their life? And we really do believe that there's a ripple effect. When you can help people find meaningful work, they thrive, businesses thrive, communities thrive, and just overall lives are improved. So it's really the crux of, why everyone at Salo, our employees, our consultants, why we're here, and why we want to, continue to grow and to continue to bring more meaningful work to more people.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And I'm excited for us to keep digging into this over the next couple of minutes. So with that being said, do you all measure employees based on these core values?
Yeah, so I can jump in here. Excuse me. The answer, Rachel, is yes, we do. A lot of companies, talk about being value-based organizations, but I would say I've never worked for an organization that lives that more than Salo does in some specific ways. And Hannah kind of alluded to this, that we measure this is through how we hire, first of all, how we recognize our employees, and also even as part of our performance review process, we've got some pretty structured ways that we align the values that we're talking to the work we do, and then again, how we measure it. So example would be like during our assessment process, with both new consultants, but also with internal talent, we intentionally build out our assessment criteria and our questions around our values. And so, when we're going through and doing those assessments and being consistent across the board, we're looking for the same things. We're looking for these 6 values and the people that we want to bring into this organization because it aligns with who we are, as Hannah said, and it's what we're all about. So that's one way we do that. So you could say, Salo truly does hire for values. Another example I would just give is through our formal review process. So, we have a required section in our formal review process that is completely tailored to the values. And we ask all of our individuals to basically self-rate themselves on which 3 of the 6 values do they feel like they've most exhibited throughout the year and how have they done that. And then we ask their managers to do the same thing. And again, it's all based on these values. And then at the end of the day, our teams are evaluated against those values and how they showed up with each of these, or at least with the 3 they felt like they most embodied throughout the course of the year. So just a couple of specific examples about how we have really layered in the values into some of those internal measurement and tracking items.
Hey, Rachel, one thing I'd maybe add really quick to that is anecdotally, right? How we measure is feedback that we get. And I started with Salo in the business development role, so out client facing, doing the job. And one of the greatest pieces of feedback I remember getting, and I know we still get it today, is when a client can say, "I know the difference of a Salo consultant." Right. And it's not just by the quality of the work, but it's who that individual is, and it's how they embody and live and represent these values, these Salo values at the client side, how they bring that positive energy, how they're very curious in the work they're trying to do to solve that client's problem, how they approach it in a very professional manner. Like there's just that differentiation. And so, that feedback and other things that we collect along the way help us kind of gauge and monitor, like, how are we doing actually kind of walking the walk here, not just talking the talk.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that, like, you are putting that first, right? Because it does take a village to really radiate that type of culture. You need it from the top down, side. And you all have really made sure that it is such an important part of the process so that everybody is radiating and you are differentiating yourselves. So then John, walk us through some unique actions that you all do at Salo that helps align your team with some of these core values.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm glad I got a chance to speak to this because there's so many things we do at Salo that are so different and unique and so, really people first as we discussed. So a couple things I think Hannah mentioned, and maybe Adam too, just literally starting every meeting with our values. And to Hannah's point, we don't just flip the slide up, we actually talk through them and always ground ourselves on what we're trying to do. What is the work we're trying to do? We're trying to build a world that works better together and connect and empower people to make a difference, and then using our values to do those things. So it's small, but it's not, because it's not something that every organization chooses to do at the beginning. And I've been here 5 years and we still do it every single time. And I think it's super important. So that's one thing. The second thing, this is one thing that I really love about Salo. We have milestone anniversaries. And so a lot of companies recognize folks that have anniversaries, but at Salo, it's a little bit different and it aligns directly to our values. So on milestones like your 1, your 5, your 10, your 15-year anniversary, we recognize those individuals at our monthly all-team meeting. That individual's manager will go and will share their experience with having that person on their team and what it's meant and what values they truly embody. And we speak to that, and then the individual has a chance to just talk about their experience and what's been meaningful for them. But it's all tied to their values. And I got to tell you, it gets very emotional. It's a very, very cool thing that we get to experience on a monthly basis. And people are just grateful to work for an organization that puts their consultants first, their people first. But again, it does tie to the values, which I think is kind of cool too. And then, excuse me, the last thing is just our formal recognition program. I wanted to bring that up because it also aligns to our values. It's called our Star Shout Out program. It's a tech-based submission thing you can do through the intranet. So you can go in and decide I want to recognize Hannah. And in doing that, as I'm filling out this web form, I'm asked to make sure that I include which value or values does Hannah embody. And how has she shown up in those values as part of this recognition activity. So again, just a few specific examples, but I think sort of make us a little bit unique in terms of how they're tied directly to the values. So yeah, just a couple of things that we do, I think, a little bit differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Even during the process with us talking through like doing this webinar, we're like, we need to start doing some of this stuff too, because it's so important that it's echoing through everything that you're doing. And those recognition programs and milestone anniversaries. I mean, I could get emotional thinking about what that feels like when y'all are sitting there. So, so then this kind of transitions to like, how do you feel like that this impacts the employees? Like, how does this impact everyone at Salo?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say two things, right? It's a lot around attraction and retention. So, I mean, I think about, you know, like the EVP work that Hannah's team really drives, and it really is about telling the story of our values and how we show up in the work that we do. And we use this messaging as we reach out to our talent communities to share the experience of what it's like to work with us. People see that and they gravitate towards it. I mean, I've always said, I've been in the TA space a long time. Salo's an easy sell because you're sharing your experience and you're talking about what it's like to come to work every day, and the great work that Hannah's team does to bring that to life. Is one of those just kind of examples of the impact it makes during the attraction phase, but also a huge part of our retention. And it's retaining our consultants as well as our internal folks. So, you know, who wouldn't want to work for a people first workplace? And I think all the things we've shared already all have a huge impact on our retention. We have pretty low turnover. We have since I've been here. There's positive energy everywhere. It's a value. There's drive and curiosity to do new work, which leads to new opportunities for people. So all in all, I think, you know, two key ways it impacts the employees at Salo is through the ability to bring great new people on board and also the ability to keep them.
Absolutely. So transitioning to this a little bit, like with low turnover, right? You are making an impact on your organization by what y'all are doing and having this type of culture. So a lot of companies claim to make work meaningful, but how is Salo different?
Yeah, and this truly is an important question, because if if you're talking the talk, that's one thing, but you got to walk the walk too. And that really is something that we think about all the time. And nobody's perfect, right? No company is perfect, and no company is, right for everybody, right? But it's a journey, and I think it really all starts with intention. And you'll find everyone at Salo has this in mind at all times. Like, we really are honed in to making this a reality for others. And something that has always driven us is, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with the Gallup study, and that kind of year over year statistic that hasn't really changed, which is around 32% of people are engaged in their work. And that has always aggravated us. It's such a low number, and it seems, we spend most of our lives at our jobs and in our careers, and to not be happy and to not be engaged is a sad reality. And so it's irked us, but it's also motivated us and kind of become our mission to change that and evolve that, because we really do believe, work should fit into your life, not life fitting into your work. And we've found that our consultants feel that same way. And that's why consulting as a career can be such an awesome option for people who might want a little more balance or flexibility or mentorship, or you name it. And consulting can be a unique career path to find more meaningful work. And so really that gets into kind of how we approach our work with our internal and corporate team, as well as our consultants. You know, we want you to tell us what matters to you, and we'll help you get there. So whether, you know, it's top tier projects, it's challenging work, it's more balance, it's, you know, trying to evolve your skill set, et cetera. You kind of reflect and figure out what that means to you, and we do our best to get you there. And we'll be transparent. You know, if Salo is right for you, if it's not right for you. But really, above all, we're trying to be career partners and have that kind of trusting relationship with our employees and with our consultants, so that we can adjust and we can shift as their needs and wants shift, and make sure that work continues to be meaningful. So it's really always at the forefront. That word meaningful is, you see it on this slide a million times, but that's really because it's everywhere for us, and it's also how we measure to our success. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I love the word meaningful because I'm also a yoga teacher, so this root's really deep in my heart. I love the association of journey and intention. I think in staffing too, it's easy for all of us to get hung up on destination, right? Because we're like filling orders, putting people to work. And I love that you all brought this up, because it's something I actually have not thought about. I don't know why, but I've never thought about it in like the staffing arena, because the journey is the bulk of everything that's happening, from an internal employee to a candidate, right? That whole experience is what allows your culture to come through. It's what allows them to keep coming back, to keep that retention, and to make it meaningful. So I love everything about what you just said about making work meaningful. So then, John, so what steps do you all take to make sure that work is important and aligned with the employees? And like, how do you go about measuring this meaningful concept?
Yeah, so, you know, I think first and foremost, I think the word individualization is important here. So everybody has a different story. Everybody's in a different place. And Hannah mentioned we're about the relationship and not the transaction. So because of that, I think we take the time to really find out what is important to people at whatever stage they're in. So for example, for internal employees, we've got a lot of movement that we have internally. We have a promote from within culture. We have people allowed to try new things, move around and do have different opportunities. We have a strong focus on learning and development for both our internal and our consultant population, so they can learn how to be better within the work that they're doing today, but also how to set them up for something new and for something different. So providing resources by knowing enough about the individual to understand what it is he or she is looking for is also important. I would also say for internal, you know, our managers, we spend a lot of time with our teams individually, setting goals, understanding what our individual team members need and want in the work that they do. And then we frequently check in to say, okay, where are we at against what we said we were going to do? Does this still ring true? Does this still make sense? Are you finding the work you're doing meaningful? If not, let's figure out how to course correct. So I think that's a piece of it. And then I would also say for consultants, we just spend so much time on the front end building that relationship, and it takes time. So something you'll hear from Salo is we're in it for the long haul. You know, I have examples of folks that I've met 3-4 years ago that were not ready at that time in their life to do consulting work, built that strong foundation of a relationship. And then the key is, you know, maintaining and nurturing that relationship over the course of time, which is a unique, I think, way of a staffing company to potentially behave. And then 3 years later, they come and they say, I'm ready. And they may have, you know, changed what's important to them. And we learn that, and we understand that, and we begin to figure out how we can find the stuff that's right for them at that time. So I think, you know, for folks with us, we have so many consultants that are in that 10 to 15 plus years of working with us because of the ongoing support, you know, the opportunities, the focus that we've provided. And how do we measure this, Rachel? I mean, we check in with our consultants all the time. It's just a part of our culture. We have formal processes to do that, but it's just naturally who we are and what we do. We do something called transition meetings where we, as a person winds down a project, they spend significant time with the whole team of business development folks that have partnered with them to assess the work that they did and what was great, what was challenging, and then for the next thing you want to do, has anything changed? Are you ready to do something different? Are you looking for something new? And then working to find that change in work if that's what the individual wants. We do surveys. We have an internal engagement survey to keep the pulse of what's going on within Salo. So there's just a lot of ways for us to kind of keep a pulse and a measurement. Some of it's just in the day-to-day how we do our business, and some of it's a little bit more formalized, but it's all in the intent of making sure that work stays meaningful for each individual based on what it is he or she needs at that time.
Yeah, and I'd maybe just add an additional thing to what John said, just to underscore this and highlight this. And I know David always gets a kick out of this when we talk about this, but everything John just mentioned, that intentionality, that investment upfront in building the relationship, the reason we do that is we don't actively recruit talent to specific client job orders. So we don't use job boards, period. So we don't post anything externally. We're always looking to engage with talent to identify, is this the right way they want to experience work? Is this the right thing for their career? If it is, great, we'll go find that first-rate client project to get them hooked up with based on all the things we've learned about them. But we're not trying to attract talent because we've got this awesome project with ABC company and you should go do this project with ABC company. It's like, no, becoming a Salo consultant, working with us this way, experiencing work for your own development in your career and your personal life, this is what makes sense. We're investing in making sure there's that great alignment there. And when we've done that, and then we continue to do that, to John's point, over and over again, that's what helps keep it meaningful. So not only to make it meaningful, but keep it meaningful, which has led to significantly high redeployment. Right, we average, around 72% redeployment rates. As mentioned on feedback and mechanism measuring, Hannah, I don't know the most recent 90 days, but our NPS, it fluctuates like 78 to 82. So it's relatively high as well. So, those things are things that we look at to say, are we continuing to do the things that we stand for and do them a way in which resonates, connects, and gives great experiences for our consultants and our internal teams.
Yeah.
I just add too onto that, Adam. I think that was well put. Just to even emphasize that point further, we say we're people first. We also say we're consultant first. So we very kind of different from some of our, other companies in the industry. We want to focus on the consultant first. So like Adam said, we're bringing in talent first, and we're not picking and choosing them based on the open client projects. We really believe that if we can focus on the consultant, find them really meaningful work, hear what's important to them, we will find the right client work for them, and the clients will be better off for it too. If we can start with, what we can control and what we can help with, that's that consultant and their meaningful career path, then we know clients will be better, businesses will be better, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. And what also is really exciting from what y'all are saying too, is like you're doing all these processes and you have all these surveys and everything in place. And it's actually, you're actually doing something with that data, right? You're remembering what they're wanting to do and you're taking it and you're listening, right? Which means so much. It creates so much more trust. So it's really great. Do you all have any stories or examples of this actually happening in the workplace with Salo employees, like making work meaningful, that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I can think of one example. I think Hannah has a couple of quotes she also wants to read off from some of our consultants. But one specific example, a gentleman that I've known since I started, he's a great example of how work has remained meaningful for him. I just looked in our system to remind myself of how much work he's done and all the great stuff that he's done. He's actually on his 18th project with us since 2005.
Wow.
And so, so we talk about a lot of those 10 to 15 plus folks at Salo. He's a great example. Everybody knows him. He's done some internal work with us to help us with some systems work, even internally at Salo. But the cool thing about his story is not only has he's also had time in between intentionally where he could do other things. And we all know his personal story because we've all built strong relationships with him. He's got other things in his life that he gets to do, but he's found, and the work that he's done is very different. So, he's been in projects where he's done org development, and then he's done a data and analytics job, and then he's been a PM, and then he's done some technology work. And so, you know, he's a really good example of somebody who's been able to find the meaning in the work, and we've partnered really closely with him to help figure those opportunities out together. And you can see the longevity and the consistency with his relationship with us, which has been really, really great. So that's one example. And I know Hannah had a few things she wanted to share as well.
Yeah, I think it's important too to, you know, not just hear from us, but hear from the consultants themselves. And we do a lot of this. If you go to our website, if you look at our social media, you know, we want to showcase our people and their experiences. And so one thing we do ask consultants is to kind of share what their My Salo is, and share one word that kind of encapsulates their experience with us. So I thought I'd just read off a couple of these are really quick. There's a couple of quotes from a few people. We've got a consultant, Joe Freehe. He's awesome. He says, "My Salo is evolution. Consulting provides creative renewal and true balance." We've got another consultant, Lauren Greer. She says, "My Salo is energizing. Salo offers new energy and optimism." And then lastly, Joanna Klotz says, "My Salo is contribution, finding the challenge I needed." So you can kind of just see a variety of, you know, what people get out of their experience, what people get out of consulting, and that it can differ from one to the next, but it helps showcase that, you know, they've found meaningful work through what we've been able to, you know, find for them.
Yeah, those are really impactful words: evolution, energizing, contribution. Like that's not just like amazing and incredible, right? That's really impactful. That means like y'all are making a difference on their career and their life. So that's really powerful. Thanks for sharing that with us. So transition here a little bit kind of goes hand in hand, right? Like the candidate experience. So the experience that these people are having with you in the very beginning. What is the process for evaluating and tracking the candidate experience?
Yeah, so I love this slide. I love this graphic here, and you can see we coined it the meaningful experience process. When we put a person into a project, it's a meaningful experience. It's not really a placement. It's a meaningful experience because that's who we are and that's what we've been talking about. So this, you know, how do we measure, monitor, review the process from sort of that first conversation where we're developing that relationship to the point that they find that meaningful experience, and even beyond that. So again, you can see the connect, care, collaborate, coach sort of life cycle here. And again, the point is that it continues over and over and over again, ideally. I also like to speak in candidate experience a little bit through a couple phases that kind of layer over the top of this. So thinking about attraction, engagement, assessment, and then ultimately how we track and manage sort of our active pool of candidates once they become part of our talent pool. So the attraction phase is all about how we educate and the prospective candidate and how we differentiate our brand. So much of Hannah and her team are involved in this work. We've talked a little bit about it before, but it's all about differentiating ourselves and the different methods that we use to connect with talent. So it's that targeted marketing from Hannah's team. It's active sourcing team. It's info sessions. It's our wonderful referral program that we've had the joy of partnering with Staffing Referrals on. You know, all of that is part of how we go out and engage and attract. And then we, you know, there's some pre-qualifying that goes on in that phase as well. So that's kind of that initial connection phase. And then I'd say the engagement phase is when we really start to sort of vet the candidate out more completely. And essentially we begin building and deepening that relationship that I've been speaking about here this afternoon. So we have some technology that does some of that work, and we have people that do that work. But the point remains the same for us. It's got to be the consistent white glove candidate experience that will remain the same. So that's kind of part of that connect and care bucket. And then the assessment phase is exactly that. We do a consistent and structured assessment based on the values, which we talked about before, with every candidate, really to try to build in evaluation methods that are, again, consistent across Salo. And we have a very specific tracking methods that my team manages at each step during that assessment phase, from sort of that initial scheduling piece to you know, following up on any of the stages within the process, and like think reference checking and and sort of post-assessment surveys, things like that. And then when all of that is done, all in the spirit of how do we best maintain the ultimate candidate experience, we move folks into our pool. As Adam says before, we're not posting for a specific job. We're meeting people that want to do consulting work, and we're placing them into a talent pool to find that meaningful work for them. That sort of overlaps in this collaborate and coach piece you can see. And we're constantly in this phase evaluating our talent against our opportunities and matching the right person to the right project at the right time. And we use multiple evaluation criteria for that. We look at work preferences, location, obviously their experience. I always call them desires, drivers, and motivators. Those are the things we really want to get to ensure that the work is exactly what that individual wants. And there's a lot of engagement and experience that's super important in this piece, because there are times when someone comes into our talent pool and it can be a little while before we find that exactly right projects. And so one of the differentiators, in my opinion, with Salo is how we engage with talent in that particular phase. We have multiple check-in points. We leverage technology, but also people to do that. We provide training opportunities. We provide opportunities for transition meetings between projects. So that is just, those are some of the examples, Rachel, of how we're able to, I guess, evaluate and track people through the candidate experience.
That's awesome. Yeah. And going back to that journey comment, right? This is all their journey, just with you all this investment that you're doing to even get them to the right position. So Hannah, tell us a little about what it means to consistently deliver on your employer brand promise.
Yeah, so I think consistently, John's already been using that word, but it really is kind of the key term here, because if you're not consistent, I think there's a lack of trust. And as I mentioned, we really want to be career partners with our consultants. And if there's no trust there, then they're not going to share everything with us. That's going to help us better find that meaningful work for them and then deliver on that promise. So it really is about being consistent throughout the experience. And that's why, we're repeating ourselves a lot, because meaningful is important to us. Our values are important to us. People first is important to us. And so we're able to be more consistent when we can hone in on those core values. And we launched an employer brand a while back, and we're really thorough with it. I think employer brand work is getting a lot of traction in companies right now, and it's extra important in our industry where we're dealing with people as our business. And so what we did is talk to our people. We talked to our people, we listened, and we heard them. And we really found out it's a lot more common to just have one employer brand and one promise. But we determined and realized that our consultant population compared to our corporate team or our internal team have, to John's points, different desires, different motivators, different drivers. And that requires a different journey, a different experience, a different solution from us. And so we identified two different promises and have programs and processes and solutions based on those two promises. A lot of it, is kind of already working that way, but we've been able to better organize it and streamline things to make sure that does stay consistent. So that was a really interesting realization for us. That again, brought our purpose, mission, and values back to the forefront so that we could, make sure as we move forward, as we build new things, that it all comes back to those two promises.
Yeah, awesome. And, whenever we were in the onboarding phase with staffing referrals and Salo, it was really evident early on that consistency was going to be key. And the collaboration between all of you all being in such alignment, we're like, wow, this is incredible. And then, we would break off. So Hannah, I met with your team and we made sure that the marketing was customized to the brand, right? It felt pretty transitional for the consultants to get anything because it felt like you had just sat there and wrote it. So, I always give you guys props for that because you could feel it as we go to launch and then y'all had success. It was like, of course they did, right? Everybody was in collaboration with making sure that everything was consistent. So kind of going back to all of that. So let's talk a little about how staff referrals ties into the employer brand.
Yeah, so this really was key. And to your point, you know, it was awesome to find, you know, a partner like you guys where you had so much built and ready to go and so much experience, but we were able to craft it in a way that still was so aligned to our brand and to those promises so that it made sense for us and for our people. And I think, you know, referral program is such a great tool for an organization. And we at Salo had realized, Adam mentioned it earlier, we had a pretty high and have a pretty high NPS or Net Promoter Score, especially compared to the kind of industry average. So we knew we were doing something right. And we knew we wanted to grow. And we were like, okay, referral program, definitely. Because you know, you've heard it already throughout this webinar. We take maybe a different approach to business, and we're very specific and particular about why we do what we do and how we can help people. And, you know, consulting isn't for everyone, but we want to make sure we're bringing in people who align to our values and people who want to be on this journey with us. And so who's better to bring those people in than the people who are already doing it and who have found meaningful work themselves. So we, you know, really saw an opportunity that our people, both internal teams and our consultants, could be great brand ambassadors for us. And, you know, it's also a really great way to involve our people. Not only involve them in helping our business grow, but also being able to recognize them and reward them for contributing in that way. So the whole referral program end to end was something that our people were actually asking for too for a while. And this is a great tool and program that we were able to jump on and honestly push out pretty fast, pretty quickly from start to finish, which was awesome. And so it was a want internally, and it really aligned to our strategy and our desire to grow. And to your earlier point too, you guys had so much built and so much ready and have had success in the past that we were able to really take what you offered and make some slight tweaks just to directly align to our brand and our experience for our people. But yeah, it's a great alignment and great fit to have a referral program to just you know, echo your employer brand and grow and evolve it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, you know, it was no surprise that you all had a ton of success pretty instantly because of all of these things, right? The meaningful experience and your core values and that culture radiating from every point, every person I would meet with before we even got to the launch phase. Like it was all the same experience I was having with your internal team. So it was really exciting once we went live for y'all to sharing your success with you, and then to get some feedback from those brand ambassadors, right? That were saying that they were like loving it, and that, you know, made my heart so happy. So then John, like internally, what are you doing at Salo to make sure that you're delivering an amazing candidate experience with internal employees?
Yeah, I mean, it's a journey, right? So, I mean, I think we're certainly not perfect at this, and we always continue to try to work at being better. But I think, you know, one example I can think of where, you know, part of the reason for our success, and again, it's a journey, but is that so many people touch the experience internally. In some organizations, it's heavy talent acquisition and maybe an individual here or maybe a support team. Within Salo, we bring so many teams into sort of the process of the candidate experience, because there's just multiple touch points that can make the experience better. So I think about marketing, obviously we've talked about multiple times. Sourcing, we've talked about. Our sales team is heavily involved in this process. Our talent team is heavily involved in this process. Our business operations team is heavily involved in this process. We even created a new team last year called our people support team. And their sole responsibility is to monitor, report, provide all sorts of administrative support for all parts of that pre-hire candidate journey. and in partnership with the overall People Connections team. So there's so many different parts of a candidate experience and a journey that can go in a different direction. And when you have a team solely responsible for making sure when things do go in a different direction, that you're able to connect with the candidate, connect with that talent, make sure you're identifying any gaps in process, improving all the time to make things better for the candidate. That is something we have spent a lot of time really honing that skill and building a team around it. For everything from managing our staffing referrals program, which this team does. Rachel, with Caitlin and that internally, we're always working to improve our program. So that's just one thing that they do to support it. Our assessment scheduling, our pre-qualifying of all the great marketing leads that come through from Hannah's work, data reporting, background screening, profiles, reference checks, all the things that need to be really tight and consistent in order for that ultimate experience to take place. We've started to build some real structure around. So that are just some of the examples of bringing in a large group of people to touch those candidates in multiple ways to really make the process better.
That's so great. It makes such a difference. So thank you for sharing that story with us. And yeah, Maddie, Caitlin, they're awesome. So let's transition a little bit to bringing in new technology. We know that can sometimes give agency executives a little bit of heartburn. So new technology, best practices, it's always a little bit challenging, right? So what are some steps that you all take at Salo to make sure that when you implement new technology, it's successful?
Yeah, I think you hit it, Rachel. Like there can be a lot of skepticism or excitement around new technologies just to fix everything and solve all the problems.
Right.
But if it's not done well, again, really intentionally, with the right resources, structure, and goals in mind, like you're kind of setting it up to fail. So, one thing for us going into 22 was part of our strategic growth plan for that year, developing, implementing, launching, rolling out a talent referral program. That was part of our strategic plan. So from the get-go, right, from our senior leadership on down, it was recognized for us to hit growth objectives for not just in 22, but ongoing growth objectives. This was going to be part of how we were going to do that. And so that focus brought with it then the additional planning and resourcing. So I remember the end of 21 sitting in a conference room with John, starting to kind of do some ROI mapping and modeling, putting some assumptions together saying, hey, if we're going to invest in a program and in a platform like this, what do we think it's going to net us, right? What ultimately will this do to help drive the growth of the organization? Not knowing what we didn't know and kind of just making it up, but we at least gave the team some targets, some guideposts to say, hey, if we build it the right way, we think this is possible. Let's go after it. And not in a, if this doesn't happen, it's a failure way, but let's make sure along the way we are actually driving some value and ultimately talent back to the organization. So we had the leadership buy-in. We had the organizational buy-in. They knew that the work of the program would be aligned to our values, right, and be a representation of us in the marketplace. So all of that really just empowered the project team, John and Hannah, who led it, along with the other team members that were part of putting it together, just gave them what they needed to say, all right, how do we do this well? How do we make this an extension of everything else that Salo does and put it together? But it took those kind of core pieces existing for that ultimately to happen. And that doesn't always happen, right? We're even subject to the kind of shiny object syndrome. It's like, ooh, this thing over here, this company's doing it. Let's do what they're doing and let's just quickly go after it. And before you know it, you're like, okay, what do we get for this? And we knew to do this well, we needed to be more planful and intentional with how we went about it. And so part of that included, early on, even before we had the defined program, like, what were the payouts going to be and what qualified as a referral, before we ever got there, we knew having a great partner to help us build the program, but also bring in technology, bring in automation was going to be critical, because to scale it and grow it the way that we were growing as a business was never going to happen on a manual process. And so that was where early on in the project, going through a little bit of an RFP process, looking at different platforms and providers out there, gave us better understanding of what we didn't know that we needed to learn, but also who was going to be a good fit for us. And again, just kind of bringing everything full circle again here, finding a partner that demonstrated and lived our values and looked at it truly as a partnership, not just as a vendor contract, not just as another sale, not just another way for them, their organization to make revenue, but really wanting to help us build a program that would help grow the organization and along the way continue to make great, meaningful experiences happen for all of our internal team, our consultants, and everyone that we touched, and that would come on that journey with us. And fortunately for us, we found staffing referrals.
We all buckled up.
Yep.
Yeah. A couple of things I want to touch on that you just mentioned. It is so important, that the referral culture exists in your organization and with any new technology too. Like, you have to make sure that everyone's in alignment with what is the plan? What are we going to do? What are the goals that we want to get to? And then get the buy-in from everybody, because it does have to really come from all of you setting the tone for this is what we're going to do. Here's what we want to get to. And then here's how we're going to get there. And then partnering with whoever that technology is. In this case, it was us. We do get that question a lot where people come to us and they're like, how do we even do this? And so now we have like the whole referral culture framework side of things now to help organizations get to that point where then they can bring on automation like staffing referrals. And then to your second point about the partnership, yes, that's how we look at every one of our customers. Like, this is a partnership. Like, you guys succeeding means that we succeed, and we want to be on that journey with you. And it is a journey. All of this whole situation,
Absolutely.
we're going to run into some roadblocks, or we might hit a couple potholes along the way. But yeah, like, that is why we love our jobs, is because we get to work with partners like you all.
It's fun.
It's fun. Well, awesome. Well, thanks so much to the Salo team. I'm going to transition a little bit back to Dave here for a second, and then we'll open it up for questions. But for all of you who are on here, you have an agency or you're part of an agency. So let's talk a little bit briefly about how to make referrals a competitive advantage like Salo has. So Dave,
Awesome.
I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Rachel. And thank you guys on Salo for sharing all of that. It's been awesome working with you guys. Really appreciate it. So just to jump in, we're going to round out the last couple of slides with just talking about how you can use referrals to create a competitive advantage. The first thing I want you all to think about is how agencies are all fishing from the same pond. Most agencies we talk to are spending the majority of their sourcing budget at the same watering holes as their competitors, and these aren't even the best watering holes. Let me show you why. So first of all, almost 3/4 of candidates aren't looking on job boards. They're passive job seekers. So all of the time, effort, money that agencies are putting into job boards, it isn't even helping them reach the majority of candidates that are out there. Some additional data supporting that claim is we asked almost 600 people where they found their current job, and only 16% said job boards. The largest single source where people found their job was a referral from a friend or a colleague at 24%. So what makes referrals work and what makes them so different from job boards is that instead of fishing in the same pond as everyone else, referrals allow you to create a privately curated candidate pool that centers around people who know you and who have had a great experience with your agency. To illustrate, imagine if you had 100 contractors currently out on assignment, and each of these people had 338 Facebook friends, which is the average amount of Facebook friends. By having those contractors share your referral program on Facebook, you could reach 33,800 potential candidates. Those candidates are entirely unique to you. No other agency has that same pool, and that's just Facebook. So this isn't even a full representation of what your agency's reach could be if you included LinkedIn. This shows you how your unique network can create a competitive advantage for your agency. Additionally, data from our system shows that the average placement rate for referrals is 16%. Compared to the 1% that's typical from a job board. That means referral leads are 16 times more likely to get placed on than job board leads. And lastly, referral leads are up to 55% faster to hire than job boards, and referral hires stay in the position as much as 70% longer than non-referral hires, and they can save your company up to $3,000 versus a traditional hire. This is a bit of an anecdote, but we've heard from multiple staffing referrals customers that we've now become their lowest cost per hire and that we've greatly improved the candidate experience. So with that, let's go ahead and jump over to the more interesting part and talk about some questions from the Salo team. Hillary, if you want to jump back in, if there's any questions that have been fielded throughout.
Yeah, we do have a question for the staffing referrals team here, and it is staffing referrals integrated with Job Diva?
Yes.
We absolutely are. That was an easy one.
Yeah, check. Nailed it.
All right, another one. And David, I know that you just touched on this a bit, but the question here is, could you explain how referrals work in a nutshell?
Yeah. So if you think about staffing referrals, what we do is we take an existing staff a referral program or a new referral program, and we basically put that on steroids by automating a lot of the messaging, the promotion. We help focus on the candidate experience by creating what we call brand ambassador dashboards, where candidates can track the status of every single referral they submit. So we essentially modernize agencies' referral program by kind of making it look like, if you've ever seen Uber, Lyft, Dropbox, now Chase even has a referral program like this, but basically giving you a kind of a digital first referral program that allows for candidates to engage and refer people in an easier way. I know it's a very short answer. If you wanted more details on that, we'd be happy to walk you through a demo of how it works with us. And I don't know if the Salo team, if you guys have any comments about how you want to explain the details of your referral program or how it works.
I mean, I would just add a couple of things really quick, and John and Hannah can add in. Our referral program again isn't intended to say, oh, we need to find someone to go do the specific client job, right? Our referral program for us and what makes it work for us is we want to get connected with individuals that want to explore working this way, right? That this is what they want for their career. And so by going to individuals that are working this way and really enjoying it, the likelihood we would go find more people like that just increases. And so that's what's really helped, and benefit us of filling the top of our funnel with additional net new names is we're getting net new names of people that we should be connecting with, which just makes everything downstream that John and Hannah have talked about around our processes, the intentionality of connections, and how we really focus on the right work for them a lot easier, because that's how they're entering their experience with Salo.
Yeah, and I can add on to that too. Just as a personal, my story, I'm an employee of Salo, and so everyone kind of gets a unique link that they can share out, that if anyone kind of applies or goes through the process of engaging with your company through that link, I could get credit if it came through mine. So for example, a friend of mine came in and got hired, actually is on John's team. She's been here for a few months, so pretty soon I've got a lovely little bonus coming my way, which I'm very excited about. But also there's a little dashboard, David mentioned, so I can actually go in. I've referred quite a few people, and I can see the status of where they're all at. So it's not like you just connect someone and then you're kind of out of it. You get to kind of see a little bit of the process, and make sure it is consistent, back to our story about the journey and making sure it's consistent. So it's a really nice way to just keep things organized and keep people up to date, and then also just make sure that those touch points are happening in the right way, and that's kind of automated.
The only thing I would add on top of that is just the ease of use as an ambassador, the way it works and how you're able to use your link, and then all the magic that goes on behind the scenes and how it flows into our systems and also aligns and really works really nicely with our technology. So it just falls right into our technology in a way that is so much more automated and efficient than it has been in the past. It allows us to use our internal processes and I think David showed a stat of this, but the quickness and the efficiency and the speed of which we can get people into a process and screened and hopefully eventually hired is better, I think, through this process as well.
Awesome. Yeah. And just on John's point, like one of the things that we've focused on from a platform standpoint is really heavily on the candidate experience and making sure that it's easy, it's simple, that they understand it, that they have a good experience with it. And then creating transparency into the whole referral program as well. We had heard, part of the reason we built this is we had heard from brand ambassadors, people that would refer to agencies. They would say, oh, I referred my friend to this agency. 6 months later, I found out they're working there. I reached out for my referral bonus and they said they didn't have a record of it. And that's really just a terrible experience. And now you're taking a referral program that's supposed to be getting you new candidates. And now instead you've created a disgruntled candidate that's not going to refer people to you, is also probably going to rate you poorly and tell people not to work with you because they don't trust you. So part of what we've done is just added that transparency with real-time referral tracking that the ambassadors can see at any given point. Awesome. Any other questions that have come through, Hillary?
It does look like we are rounding out the hour here. So if you want to do a rapid fire one, we don't have a referral program at all. So what's the first step we should take?
Who wants to take that?
I would just add to a thought of like, what do you hope to get out of the referral program, right? I mean, obviously there's generic, go get more talent, but like really, what are you looking to do, right? Is it just the top of the funnel thing? Are you looking for it to drive placements? You know, I get really clear of the value of a referral program to your business and your business's needs or growth.
Absolutely. And I would add that if you're looking to do that and if you're looking to build out your referral program, you've identified the business objectives and you want to make sure that you're building it kind of to meet market standards. We do have an ebook that includes benchmarks for referral bonuses by industry vertical. It also includes sample terms and conditions that you can use. So it kind of makes it easy for you to get your referral program up and running with or without software in place.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us here today. Adam, John, Hannah, Rachel, David, thank you guys so much for the excellent presentation. Everyone keep an eye on their inbox for a recording of the event, and we will see you next time.
Awesome.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you guys.
Everybody.
How are you going?
Thanks, everyone.